London to look at the headquarters of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development because I've been sending letters and emails to this organization for 2 years regarding a multi-billion-euro fraud in Eastern Europe, and I have received no reply from them.
This is where I used to work, Parex Bank of Latvia. Parex Bank and its successor Citadele Bank are boutique offshore banks for Russian and Ukrainian depositors. Parex Bank used to openly report that 80% of its deposits were non-resident, and those accounts have been transferred to Citadele Bank. When I was a Parex employee attending meetings with Parex representatives and Western bankers, we were often asked the purpose of the non-resident accounts. Parex managers openly explained that the purpose of the accounts was tax evasion. I know a Parex client with a business in Russia who explained how this works in an email. He wrote that his business has a bank account in Russia and a bank account in Latvia. Some customers prefer to pay for services legally, with taxes, to the Russian account. Some customers prefer to pay for services illegally, without taxes, to the Latvian account. When I was an employee of Parex Bank, I was told not only by my coworkers, but also by representatives of the Latvian, Russian, and American governments, that Parex Bank was a criminal organization. Various people told me that Parex Bank was the Latvian Mafia, or Russian Mafia, or Jewish Mafia, or KGB Mafia. When I learned about certain material frauds at Parex Bank in 2004, I blew the whistle. I gave the fraud information to Ernst & Young, Moody's Ratings, and Fitch Ratings. They all ignored the information and continued to endorse Parex Bank. I gave the fraud information to the Latvian prosecutor's office in 2005. They did not ignore the information, but instead opened a criminal case against me to make me shut up after I was chased out of Latvia with what I perceived to be murder threats coming directly and indirectly from at least 7 former coworkers. In 2007, a Latvian journalist published phone transcripts indicating that Parex Bank has controlled the Latvian prosecutor's office since 1998, when a bomb destroyed the law office of a former KGB agent who arranged a meeting between the general prosecutor and the president of Parex Bank with the apparent purpose of negotiating protection money payments. The former KGB agent himself has admitted that the transcripts are authentic. This situation should not be surprising since Latvia used to be part of the Soviet Union, and the justice system in Latvia is identical to the justice system in Russia. During Soviet times, the KGB gave commands to the prosecutors. When the Soviet Union broke up in 1991, many KGB agents became bankers and lawyers, and almost all prosecutors kept their jobs as prosecutors. Today, in 2011, nothing has changed in Latvia and Russia. The publisher of the transcripts, Lato Lapsa, should be a national hero in Latvia. However, he was chased out of the country with murder threats, and he is simultaneously being sued by the Latvian government and the EBRD. There was a tiny bit of justice from all of this. I understood, based on email correspondence with the FBI, that one of the frauds from my whistleblowing list figured into the 2010 bribery case in which Daimler agreed to pay $185 million to the United States. The huge material fraud at Parex Bank that related to this can be confirmed in a matter of minutes using publicly available information, yet the Western auditors, Western ratings agencies, and Latvian prosecutors are still pretending that they don't know about it. I understand that now in 2011, there is still only one criminal case open with regard to this crime, the criminal case that was opened against me in 2006 to make me shut up about it. The Latvian politicians who received millions of euros of kickbacks are free to keep the money and are still running Latvia today. The tiny bit of justice against Daimler is not enough. Parex Bank grew and grew after the whistleblowing, and always reported strong profitability until the end of 2008, when the corrupt Latvian government told the Latvian taxpayers that they will pay back the bank's liabilities even though they have no legal obligation to do so. Since that time, Latvians have learned that the Parex oligarchs were engaging in unreported deposit and loan deals between themselves and the bank, where they were borrowing money at low rates and lending it back at high rates. Latvians have also learned that the loan portfolio of Parex Bank is only worth half of its reported value, with some of the largest worthless assets being the same ones that I pointed out as having been illegal back in 2004. The Latvian people will suffer for generations because of this. The tax burden has increased to pay back the losses of this private offshore bank. Salaries and pensions have been decreased to pay back the losses of this private offshore bank. Thousands of families have been forced to leave their country to start their lives over in the United Kingdom and elsewhere. However, the Parex oligarchs are still the bosses in Latvia. They have complete immunity from law, living in their giant palaces with armies of servants polishing their fleets of luxury cars. The EBRD announced in 2009 that they were conducting due diligence to buy Parex Bank shares. Finally, positive change could come to Latvia. The oligarchs could be defeated. I immediately offered to give the details of many material frauds at Parex Bank to the EBRD, plus a list of violent crimes involving Parex Bank that numerous people had told me about. But the people at the EBRD refused to perform their jobs. They refused to have any communication with me, and instead talked only with official spokespeople from the corrupt Latvian government. Since the EBRD refused to communicate with me, I asked a friend who is a lawyer to ask someone at the EBRD what was going on. The friend indicated to me, through both emails and Skype, that his contact at the EBRD wrote that the EBRD compliance people said to him that they were already communicating with me, which was a lie. Then, even more incredibly, the EBRD contact wrote that the whistleblowing material didn't matter anyway because the EBRD already knew that Parex Bank was criminal. After refusing to conduct due diligence in January and February of 2009, while lying to each other and lying to the press that they were conducting due diligence, the EBRD agreed to allocate 106 million euros of taxpayer money to Parex Bank, and they knew that Parex Bank was criminal. The apparent purpose of the EBRD expenditure was to trick the international community into making a rescue package for Latvia. The total rescue package loan was 7.5 billion euros, and that money is coming from the IMF, the European Union, the Nordic countries, the World Bank, and Czech Republic, Estonia, and Poland. Remember, the purpose of this loan is to finance the bailout of offshore tax evasion accounts. This loan is not for ordinary Latvian people, even though they are supposed to pay back the loan. The GDP of Latvia is about 18.7 billion euros, and therefore the Parex Bank bailout, when all of the money is dispersed, will be 40% of GDP. The Latvian taxpayers paid millions of euros to Nomura to study what to do with Parex Bank, which was now owned by the Latvian government and the EBRD. These owners instructed Nomura to do everything in secrecy for the apparent purpose of protecting the oligarchs. Fortunately, at least one insider felt that he should serve the taxpayers instead of serving the oligarchs. He leaked the Nomura analysis to a dissident website, since this information is censored in the Latvian press. According to the Nomura document, the EBRD purchase of Parex Bank stock was a fraud. The purchase of Parex Bank stock by the EBRD was actually a loan from the EBRD to the Latvian government at 22% interest because there was a secret put option. In the 2009 Parex Bank annual report is a false statement that the EBRD conducted complete due diligence and invested in Parex Bank stock, signaling about the vitality and development potential of the institution. The truth is not mentioned. The people at the EBRD believe that Parex Bank is criminal, and they bought the worthless stock because they have a guaranteed return of 22% to be paid by the Latvian taxpayers who were kept in the dark about the whole deal. According to the Nomura document, the business plan for Parex Bank is that it will slowly write off its assets over 5 years and then fail. The Latvian government is claiming that the bailout money that went to Parex was a loan. The Latvian government is claiming that it is earning interest on this loan. But according to the Nomura document, the bailout should have been considered an expense instead of a loan. One possible rationalization that the EBRD could use for its fraudulent purchase of stock in a bank specialized in tax evasion services could be an intention to clean up the bank, because the process would involve closing all of the non-resident deposit accounts at Parex Bank, which means closing most of the deposit accounts. However, the EBRD and Parex Bank did not do this. Instead, they did the exact opposite. They prohibited many non-resident depositors from withdrawing deposits and did this in a discriminatory and therefore illegal way. Since I was curious about whether the new so-called good bank, Citadele Bank, was any different from the old bad bank, Parex Bank, I communicated with 2 people who are directly involved. I talked with a woman who used to work for Parex Bank and now works for Citadele Bank. Her job, according to herself, is flying to Moscow to assist depositors in hiding money from Russian law enforcement. I asked her if there has been any change in this activity. She said that there has been no change and business is exactly the same as it always was. And I exchanged messages with the man in Russia who used an account at Parex Bank to hide money from Russian tax authorities. He said that his account was switched to the good bank, Citadele Bank, and the account serves exactly the same purpose that it did before, tax evasion. The purpose of the EBRD is to help the former communist countries to develop their economies. This is a page from the EBRD website from the About Us section. This page discusses accountability, integrity, and anti-corruption. Here is one quote from this page. We review the suitability of prospective clients, investigate allegations of fraud, corruption, and misconduct, and address complaints from those adversely affected by EBRD operations. Here is another quote from this page. By fostering transparency and accountability in the countries where we invest, we support the successful transition to a market economy. The words are very beautiful. However, there is a big problem. The claims on this page are completely fake. The EBRD, in reality, is doing exactly the opposite of what they are claiming to do on their website.
In conclusion, I hope that somebody in this building will feel a sense of duty to properly perform his or her job and do what the EBRD is supposed to be doing according to the EBRD website. Thank you.